Hey, this is Perry's Hotter, or aka Perry Edwards, your friendly neighborhood mangaka in the making a revamped, relettered, cold blooded Volume 1. What is cold blooded, you might ask? This is my first ever manga trade paperback, tankobon, whatever you want to call it. The first 8 chapters of Cold Blooded, which is about Rembrandt Snart, who misses his dad, and while holding out hope after his father's disappearance 5 years ago, he discovers latent reptilian abilities brought out by a shadowy figure determined to end his life. Now, last year, I launched my first ever Kickstarter and successfully funded it for Volume 1, and this was the volume that we got, right? And shortly after launching, I began to get reviews, and I got a review. It was a bad review, and I didn't agree with everything in it. But one of the things was that the lettering was terrible, and come to find out, it was. I didn't know anything about lettering. I thought it's just text and speech balloons. What's to it? But there's apparently a bit more to it than what I initially thought. And I tried to make my own font and use it, and that didn't. That actually made it worse. There are some things that I did do kind of right. Like, I generally kind of stuck to the pyramid or diamond rule, which I explain what that is, but just kind of pyramiding text. I generally, even this, I anchored this, and I didn't know what anchoring was. But the biggest problem is just like the leading is so huge, and the leading is like the space between letters. That, and because I made my own font, you could, say maybe the typeface or whatever was bad, but I think that's more of a preference. But for this, so I was inspired to completely re-letter all 8 chapters, and now I'm going to relaunch it in a Kickstarter. And I've actually already printed it and sold some copies, but I'm still going to do a Kickstarter over it. Because I think I need to do one. I want to do it and get it done before a Volume 2. And I'll still need to re-letter the remaining chapters after Volume 1. But for now, there's just a focus on the Kickstarter. And so what I thought I'd do in this video is point out some of the differences between these and what's going to be new in this. And just looking at the covers, you can immediately tell Story and Art by Perry Edwards, Volume 1. This is different, and I modeled this more after, so I was looking at like Naruto, and that's basically what I was modeling this after, and kind of this, just to look, I thought it looked better. And one thing I did is I resized everything, including the interiors. Things were not sized properly. Some things were way huge, and so it made it difficult to stick to a consistent font size. And so I resized everything appropriately. Another thing I'll just get away, if you notice, this looks darker. I'm using a different printer, and this appears thicker. It does have 10 extra pages, which I'll get into that why later. But I think it mostly appears thicker because of the printer I'm using. I'm using a smaller printer, but he's more uses more quality paper. And while these look, it is slightly thicker. There's not a big difference. But it was thick enough that when I had these manga bags, specifically for manga, this could not fit in it. It was so funny. I was like, what's wrong? Why don't they fit? And it was the same dimensions, everything. It was just a little thicker. And otherwise, it's more or less the same size. And so, yeah, it printed darker. The logo I put behind the character, and I redid this next to the spine. So, yeah, I, of course, did the same font as I did on here, and, of course, the letting's fixed. I got rid of this red lettering here. Also gave this one a thinner stroke, and so the spine looks better. There's not this huge letting problem. Another thing that I did that was kind of dumb. Uh, there's like some kind of formula for the spine that was on Comics Wellspring, which was the printer I'm using. But this time around, even though I didn't use Comics Wellspring to print, I actually used their spine formula this time, which I don't think I used the first time around. So the spine is also more accurately on there. Which you could tell the spine was too big as well, and it kind of went over into the back cover. Which brings us to the back cover. Okay, so for this, I completely removed the logo, and this is basically the same log line, more or less, but it's with a better typeface with proper lettering and pyramiding, and that was it. So let's get the inside. So inside I just have the manga tends to do this, where it's line art on the inside. And then I have table of contents. But I didn't have an indica. And indica is basically when if you open a book and you see like this small text. So here I have an author page. I imitated what mangakas usually do. They usually have a little blurb at the very beginning. And there's a little bio. And then I have the indica. So these things are completely absent from this. And indica is just basically kind of protects me legally from anyone kind of trying to steal my work. And there is no line art here. But if you flip over, then we get the line art with the black and white logo. Oh, my bad. I totally skipped a page. So I did have the blurb and everything. It just wasn't with proper lettering and no indica. Then we flip over. There's not too many differences here. Just Volume 1 Conviction Story and Art by Perry Edwards. I just put down here with, again, replace lettering and proper pyramiding. Yeah, this table of contents page is more or less the same. Other than that, I resized it. And here, so my first time around I did a cover for each chapter, and I included the logo in chapter 1. But I was thinking, well, I have the chapter 1 on the first page, and I have the page numbers and table of contents. I think it's kind of unnecessary for me to include the logo and the chapter, hence why I chose to completely remove it. And it's like just the art, just appreciate the art, because I was looking at some manga and they don't really do that. Usually, if they include the logo, it's usually built in within the first page. But when I drew these pages, I didn't intend that, so I wasn't gonna do it now. And then here it's like, I replace my chapter 1 Awakening. As some of this, I actually replaced. I didn't do this for everything, but I did replace these digitally. These caption boxes, as well as the lettering. Now I'm not going to go through every page, but basically, I learned a lot. I took a lettering course from a online class called Comics Experience, and it was really good. And I learned about the conventions of lettering. And the thing about it is I had no idea what the conventions of lettering was. I was just imitating what I'd seen in manga. And not everything in manga is conventional for American comic books. So it was really helpful to just know what's conventional, because of course I don't stick to convention, but now that I know, it's more of an intentional decision, whereas before I just didn't know. So this time around, this was all ignorance. But this time around, if you don't like something, well, it was still intentional. I chose to leave it there. I know I have a better idea what I'm doing. Like one thing, they say to not, like here I made the text really big, because in manga, they use big text. The font changes sizes, and for most of this book, the font is like, I think 7 or 8, but there are a few times where I make the text big because that's what they do in manga. However, I think in American comics that's kind of a no-no, but again, that's the choice I made. That's what I'm sticking to. So yeah, I didn't know what anchoring was, and so I really stuck to anchoring. So even though there's no balloon here, it's just text, I did anchor it to these panels. Anchored here, here, here. Anchoring is like when it's, let me find an example with, so like this is anchoring, that's anchoring, this is also anchored, as well as this caption is anchored, meaning it's just touching the anchored. Manga does that a lot that I really like. The main character, when he transforms, he's now going to use black balloons with white text. It wasn't like that before. I got this idea from I tried working with the letterer, but again, he was sticking to conventional American comic book lettering, so I didn't like everything that he did, but I didn't know what it was about it that I didn't like until I took the lettering course. And I decided to re-letter it myself, and but I picked up some things from him that really helped me. Oh yeah. Hopefully that's fixed. This shouldn't be like this. let me flip to that page. It shouldn't be far. Yeah, they're not in the gutter. They are kind of anchored weird. Yeah, this page is kind of cropped weird because, I don't know, I didn't scan it right a long time ago. But, all these pages have been resized properly. And so I put to be continued, but here I got rid of it because really, to be continued is only necessary if you're reading this like weekly or monthly or however long it's released between, right? But if you're reading in a graphic novel format, you don't need it to be continued because it's immediately continued hereafter. And after these pages, and with chapter 2, again, we have just the virgin cover with nothing on it. And so yeah, these are the same pages pretty much. I just re-lettered and resized it. There's nothing real special about that. This kind of behind the scenes stuff. And so there shouldn't be any to be continues at the end of these chapters, except at the very end, because that makes sense, because that's actually where the book ends. And so that would make sense because then there is a wait period between Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is a very tedious overhaul, all these chapters, and it took a while. And I'm glad to have finally done it. There's still so much more left to do with the Kickstarter. But I'm hoping I can get some new people this time around. And so yeah, I finally have the to be continued down here, and So this, I put a big thing, Volume 2 coming late 2021. I don't know if I'll actually be able to have it done and a Kickstarter for it at this rate. But if not late 2021, early 2022, I'm just doing a bunch of tedious stuff I don't like to do, so it's taking me longer as a result. Between everything else. And so this is basically all the same text, but I re-lettered it because here I wasn't mindful of the gutter, so it's like it goes into the gutter, which isn't good. But here it's like it's good, you can read it clearly. I just went with all capitals, and it was kind of like a little my story at the end. And then here's some variants that I just included with everything. Sorry, there's a truck outside. You know, the only difference here is they're just resized, and then they look different because of the printing. And then I completely removed this page and replaced it with this, my about the author, including my social media platform. And this I can't take credit from someone. So someone lettered this for me, but I redid it, but I modeled it after what they did. Just so I could edit it, because I just needed to edit it slightly. So that was a big help, because I'm not like a big graphic design person, but I still like, I like to, it's just easy for me to make things how I want. I just need to know how to make it more presentable. And so that's it. Hopefully if you back the first one, you'll back this one. Even though it's the same book, but it's better letters. And if you're completely new, I hope you back it and give it a chance and appreciate my story and the effort that went in behind it and relettering it, you know, to show that I've come a ways, you know, at least somewhat in the span of a year or so. It's been more than a year since I've launched my first Kickstarter. I think, and I may be closer to 2 years now, which is crazy to think about. I haven't done the exact math, but yeah, I hope this gets you on board. And I last did on my YouTube channel manga reviews. I haven't gave up on those. I want to resume those. I just don't know when. But I've read some manga, and I have some that I definitely want to review.